What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. Today we are doing a movie review about the Netflix film Always Be My Maybe. This film stars Ali Wong and Randall Park. There's also other characters, Keanu Reeves, Daniel Day Kim, just to name a few. And this will be my review of it. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Always Be My Maybe. I've been seeing a lot of really positive reviews on this on YouTube from other reviewers, I guess you can say. And fine. They were fans of the film. Myself, I didn't really think it was that great. I thought it was good, and I do recommend people watch it. But there were a few things that I don't feel people are really speaking on. One of which is the chemistry between Ali and Randall on screen. I didn't really see it or feel it when I was watching this film. I felt like there was this entire backstory that they gave both of these characters, and yet whenever they shared the screen together, that spark or that whole whatever it is that's supposed to bring them together by the end of the film is missing. Now, spoiler warning for those of you who have not seen the film yet. Go ahead and go watch it. I do recommend you watch it and judge for yourself. This was just one of the things that I found was missing from this film. So, spoiler warning is over now. But in the beginning of the film, we start out with Ali and Daniel Day Kim's characters. They're both engaged to one another. He, I believe, is a restaurant developer, and she is a restaurant chef. So he develops restaurants, that's what he does. And then she goes ahead and she is pretty much the chef. She designs the layout, designs the menu, probably puts her name on the building or whatever her chain of restaurants is, that's what she does. And she's very successful at it. So those are those two characters, and they immediately let you know that they don't have a real connection with one another. It's probably just a whole business thing that they have between the two of them. Now, one of the things that they flash back on is Ali and Randall's characters as children. They're next door neighbors with one another. Ali's parents work all of the time, and they leave her home alone. So she has to cook for herself, which is probably where this whole getting into the culinary arts stems from. And Randall's character, as a childhood version of him, they're like best friends. He invites her over. His parents are always home. They eat dinner together. The mother cooks, teaches her how to make some family recipes, and that's where their great bond with one another stems from. And they transition into adolescence, preteen, and then they get into their teenage years. And once they're teenagers, you already have this idea that the two of them are very close, that they have this really great friendship with one another. However, immediately I felt like that was kind of missing. I didn't feel like they played off of one another very well. I feel like everybody else that was in this film that ever shared screen time with them did a really great job, except for each of them whenever they had to share that time together. Now, I might be alone on this thought. Feel free to let me know in the comments below if I'm completely wrong, but that's just my initial impression. I felt like they just didn't have a connection. I felt like the love that they were trying to build up, because later in the film she does admit that he was her first love from as far back as she could remember, all the way up until the point where they consummate that friendship and transition into something more physical between the two of them. But then it immediately gets weird right after and they go their separate ways. It just didn't feel like she really had those feelings for him, because Daniel Day Kim's character, I'm kind of jumping around here, but he ends up telling her, because she's going to be sent off to San Francisco to open up a restaurant. And he tells her that he has this opportunity to go overseas and work with just some great person that he admires. And at this time, they're going to see other people and pretty much take a 6-month break to figure out if they really want to get married to one another. Now, her assistant, who's played by Michelle Bateo, she ends up trying to be matchmaker and hits up Randall's father, because he owns an AC unit company, to come out and install the AC in her house that she'll be living in for the time being. And Randall, he works with his father. So she kind of gets them both in the room together. They've not seen each other or spoken to one another ever since, I would imagine, ever since that night that they took their friendship that step further. So immediately it's just kind of like this kind of awkward feeling. Like they haven't seen each other in a really long time, yet it does feel like there was nothing even between them at all. So fast forwarding a little bit, they end up hanging out. She sees that he's still in this band that he was in as a kid. And all the while she's continuing to develop this restaurant that she's going to be launching or opening soon. And that's when Randall's character has this talk with his father about expressing to her how he feels. And by this time, she's already met somebody else. And that person she meets is Keanu Reeves, which is interesting because he actually plays himself in this movie. She's, I believe, catering some party for a movie that's like a Netflix movie, it's a cast viewing or something like that. So it's kind of meta how here she is in a Netflix film as a chef catering for a Netflix event. And then you have Keanu Reeves, who is an actor in the film, also playing himself in the film. And right away they hit it off. And then Randall and Allie and Keanu, and I believe his love interest, whom I can't really find her name. I've been trying to look her up. I think it's played by Vivian Bang. I believe that's the character, the woman who plays his girlfriend in the film. They all go on a double date to some super fancy restaurant. And I think that Keanu did a really great job in this film. He definitely lands all of his just comedic points. He definitely hits the mark. I thought he was just going to be a very small cameo in the film, more or less like he was just in the trailer and this is what's going to get people to watch the movie. But no, he actually has some screen time, which I thought was really great. So they end up sort of getting into it, and that's when Allie and Randall's characters kind of then meet up again. She no longer wants to be or see Keanu anymore, and they end up sort of revisiting that whole thing that they shared in the backseat of his Toyota Camry or Corolla so many years ago. And that just reignites everything, and they just kind of move forward together, sort of transitioning into a relationship very seamlessly. And now this is the part where I feel like they can be in the same room together and kind of just be together. I thought that they did that very well, I will admit. But this whole kind of romantic tension, I don't think that they did that very well. So I guess that kind of explains where I'm coming from with it. I think that they can be in a relationship together, and that's good. But romantic tension, I don't think that they did that very well. I didn't feel that tension between the two of them. So long story short, it is a good film. I think that the cast did a very solid job. I think that the story that they told is a refreshing take on any kind of romantic comedy story of two people who you want to see together, yet they drift apart and then they end up coming back together in the end. There were a couple points in this film that I thought were hilarious. I think that Michelle's character as a pregnant assistant was just hilarious and on the nose with a lot of things that she was talking about. And a lot of the lines that she was coming through with. I think that Randall's band members were a pretty interesting group of individuals. Keanu's character definitely hit all of those comedic jokes. Even Vivian's character, I thought that as kind of like a real grassroots, I don't know, if tree hugging activist, environmentalist. Her character was just odd, and she played it very well. The end of this film was very touching because, and again, these are spoilers. If you made it this far, the movie's pretty much been spoiled. But in the beginning, Randall's mother passes away. There's been an accident, and she passes away. I want to say when they're in their teenage years, and you just feel that loss that he and the father kind of go through. And even Allie expresses the loss because she never had her parents home with her throughout her youth. There's even a detachment now that her parents are retired and they're trying to include themselves in her life. There's a sense of detachment because she's never had them in her life. And now that she's an adult, it's kind of like too little too late, but at least they're making an effort to be there now, even though they didn't before. So at the very end, after he gives this extremely cheesy, which you can expect from any romantic comedy, extremely cheesy speech to win her back, she ends up taking him to a restaurant that she's going to be opening. And I think what sparked this was that he kind of hit her with that Chinese food shouldn't be served in a shot glass. It should come in a really big bowl because she has this fancy restaurant that caters to the wealthy. And apparently the wealthy like to eat really odd dishes. And he's just saying, stick to your roots. And so she shows him a restaurant that she's been working on opening. And it's going to be opening soon. And she takes him in there. And there's one of the chefs stirring this pot that's on the stove. And she asks him, is it ready? He said, yeah. And he comes up and looks at it and he's like, that's just like Mom's. And right there, that kind of hit me in the feels, at least. I felt like had they played maybe that mom card a little bit more, it would have worked. They didn't have to necessarily save it till the end. But because they did that, I think that it paid homage to the fact that, you know, his mom was such an intricate part in his life, and probably the loss of his mother was the reason that set him on this path of sort of just staying at home with his dad, not moving out and not getting the band off of just playing the same block and playing the same club. He was stagnant after losing her. And so she tells him it is her recipe, and she pulls out a menu that they're going to be launching, and it's his mother's name right there on the header. And she tells him it's all of her recipes. She's pretty much dedicating a restaurant in the memory of his mother, a woman whom was a mother to her growing up, whom she loved tremendously. I mean, as children, there's no bigger honor that we can pay to our parents than to try to show them some type of tremendous amount of gratitude, whether it's, for not all of us, we're not all going to have that kind of opportunity, but to open a restaurant and sharing their culinary gifts to everyone, or just going off and trying to continue your education, to be successful, to be a good father, to be a good parent. All of these things it pays respect to the people who raised us. And so because of that, I thought that really hit the nail on the head for me. It hit me right in the feels, and I was just like, oh man, y'all got me with this one. So the movie ends and we cut to credits. We see pictures of everybody, all the cast. as little youngsters themselves. And all in all, I did think it was a very good film. I think that people should definitely watch this. You should put it in your queue. You should, get that popcorn, get that date night, that Netflix and chill, and catch this movie. It's a good one. The characters, just the two main characters, I really felt that was missing. Again, leave it down in the comment section down below if you think I'm wrong, if there's something that I just didn't see. But that was the only thing throughout the entire film that was off for me. Now, there are other things with cinema that I didn't think really came into play. I think that there were no real color grade choices that were made by the director, by the editors to kind of move the story, or there was no foreshadowing or anything like that. I didn't really catch that in this viewing. I felt that it was pretty much just what you see is what you get. There weren't very many layers to this film. So all in all, I do recommend it. I do say go ahead and check it out for yourself. But again, leave it down in the comments. What do you guys think? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you not? With the whole Crazy Rich Asians kind of just movement that's been going on, do you think we're going to start seeing a lot more Asian headliners? I like to hope so. I mean, I think that these films are great and they're very entertaining. So if you made it this far, don't forget to hit that subscribe, hit that like, leave me a comment. If you're catching the podcast, be sure to subscribe. Leave me a 5-star if you're catching me on iTunes. And as always, till next time, you guys. See ya.